finance for managers is mostly about cash flow. And if you believe in the old saying, it takes money to make money, then you already understand the concept of cash flow. And cash flow is extremely important for every company. And as a matter of fact, the cash flow statement of a company reveals how a company spends its money or cash outflows and where that money comes from or cash inflows. So if you remember anything from this session, please remember that the most important thing about finance for managers is how to manage the cash flow of your business. And you might remember that during an earlier session on economics, we raised the important issue of shareholder value. And that boot camp drill, we also discussed the single pursuit by managers to increase shareholder value. And in fact, that single pursuit might be the cause of a lot of economic problems we face in the world today. But maybe that's not true. According to Professor Alfred Rappaport of the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University, he wouldn't agree with that statement. And Alfred wouldn't agree because, in his opinion, the reality is that the shareholder value principle has not failed management. In fact, it is management who has betrayed the principle of shareholder value. And what do you think Professor Rappaport means by that? Well, according to Alfred, the real challenge for managers today is that they should learn to appreciate a simpler definition of value. And because of this lesson he gives us in this bootcamp session, we're going to concentrate on trying to understand that simpler version of value, because that could be very valuable to us as managers. And at its most basic level, the value of a business is the sum of the present value of future expected cash flow. Present value, future cash flow. In this simple definition, the present value is the value at the present moment of a sum of money. And that value is very different from some future value of that sum of money and what it will have after interest and compounded interest or whatever. And in Alfred's simple definition of value, a company's value has four major components. The first component of value is that a company's value depends on who's managing it and what their strategy is, because that strategy will determine and have a great impact on the value of the company. The second component of a company's value is that the company's stock price, and we must remember that the performance of a stock price is driven by the expectations of the market. So what that means is that the higher those expectations are, the faster the company must run to keep up with them. The third component of value is that companies create value by investing capital at a higher rate of return than the cost of that capital. And so this means that every company must attempt to create value at a greater rate than the cost of the capital or money they need to fund that growth. And finally, the fourth component of value is that companies create value by generating higher cash flows. In other words, only by improving cash flow can a company create value, no matter how much they fiddle with the books. But before we go any further, let's repeat Professor Rappaport's four principles of value once again, because we need to understand them. First, management and the strategies they use are critical to creating value. Second, market expectations determine how fast management must run. Third, management must achieve a rate of return greater than the cost of the money needed to run fast. And finally, number four, to increase value, management must maximize cash flow. The important message here is that every manager would be wise to focus on these four principles. And this is because misunderstanding value has caused a lot of companies to miss opportunities for creating long-term value in their businesses. In the next video, we'll present a mini case to illustrate these 4 principles in order that you and I can understand the critical role which cash flow plays in the success of every business. But before we discuss that case, let's first define some critical terms which will come up in the case. The first term is shareholder value. Shareholder value is the ultimate measure of a company's success and is the extent to which it enriches its shareholders. Second, we need to understand for the upcoming mini case operating cash flow, or OCF. An OCF is a measure of the amount of cash generated by a company's normal business operations. Third, we need to understand free cash flow. And free cash flow, or FCF, is the measure of a company's financial performance, which is calculated as operating cash flow minus capital expenditures. And the fourth term we need to define is net income. And net income is a company's total earnings or profit, which is calculated by taking revenues and subtracting cost of doing the business, such as depreciation, interest, tax, etc. The fifth and final term we need to define is cash conversion cycle. And the cash conversion cycle, or CCC, expresses the length of time in days it takes for a company to convert resources, inputs, etc. into cash. In other words, CCC measures the amount of time needed to sell inventory, the amount of time needed to collect receivables, and the length of time a company is allowed to pay its bills without incurring any penalties.